Major League Journeymen coming off a great weekend in MLS, opening weekend. We got Dax on more screens than he or I are able to tell you about. Gordo actually watched some soccer, and we're going to chop up Messi. Is Messi a villain? There's a good argument to be made. He may be trending in that direction. Major League Journeymen. We are now all officially employed again coming after the weekend. Dax, in the business, you have performed on the biggest of big stages. How was it in there with Apple Television X Major League Soccer? How was the partnership? What are we looking at?
Oh, buddy, let me tell you.
Do you still have makeup on?
I don't. I've made sure to take plenty of showers and late night showers at that. It was fun, man. It was a lot of fun. And I got to say, because we moved studios, there was a lot of prep and a lot of work that went into getting this first weekend off the ground. And the overwhelming thought for me is just like gratitude. So grateful. I mean, there's so many different people. And Gargs, you probably know this. I know, Gargs, you worked with Atlanta United for a few years. Gordo, you did a few things for the Rapids. I know that. But you guys will probably remember there is so much work that goes on behind the scenes. And there are so many people that it requires to make like a good production and a good broadcast. And you see you see the host and the analysts and maybe a sideline reporter, and maybe you have like one producer in your ear. There's like 50 other people that are so important to making sure a broadcast goes well. And just with everything, with a new set and a new studio, there's a million moving parts. There's English, there's Spanish. Like, man, it was honestly drinking through a fire hose doesn't even do it justice, but it was a lot of fun. I was really, really grateful to be a part of it. And look, it's a new life, man. It's a new normal I'm going to have to get used to, but what a great weekend.
Well, you did fantastic, Dax. I tuned in. I listened to every word. I thought you did perfect.
Thanks, bud. I don't think it was perfect. I definitely can get better, and I'm going to listen, guys. I'm working with a broadcast coach, okay? You know, listen, I'm really doing it all. You know,
yeah, that does remind me, Dax. We have a scheduled meeting here in about 25 minutes.
It is not Dan Gargan, honestly. I don't think I can afford Dan Gargan.
Oh yeah, Gordo. I was going to ask, what'd you think of the new and improved Red Bull going for good, not great, across the board? How did you perceive the Kevin Egan-led band? I thought all things that we were kind of expecting, like natural banter, just a comfort level across the board. Obviously, from having a history, it seemed to go off without a million hitches. Which I know, Dax, like when you have people in your ear, there are things going wrong all the time, and you're pivoting and moving, but Gordo, as just a consumer, as a watcher, what did you think?
I thought everybody was really natural. Obviously, Sasha, WBP, PWP.
Don't disrespect him like that. Don't disrespect him like that.
Okay, BWP. I thought they were fantastic. They're obviously comfortable with each other from playing. I think it's a good squad. And Kevin's great too. But what I want as a consumer, what I was thinking about is because Dax, you said I've been a part of little studio sessions, and I still think it's a little bit too structured. Like, you know, I know you guys are doing these one hitters, and you had to go through all the games, and you got to move. Yeah. But I want little segments. If I was about to give like feedback, which I'm doing, I guess I want a little bit more banter between you two instead of like, you know, Kevin just peppering you. Hey, what'd you think? You guys give a quick breakdown. I want like 2 minutes of you guys just kind of going back and forth a little bit more, because I know you guys could have some better conversations and it would bring out somebody instead of you guys doing these kind of one hitters. But you guys nailed it. I mean, I like BWP. He's got you guys all have a very good perspective on the game, which was great. So I liked it. If I was to say, hey, how could you make this a little bit better? I want a little bit more banter. It doesn't have to be funny banter, but a little bit more natural banter.
Gordo, I totally hear that. And the thing that I think about all the time, especially when I got into this weekend, is that would be amazing. But you guys, I mean, Gargs, you know this, and especially, you've been an analyst, you've been a host, like, dude, you've got to hit a lot of different things. You have to hit ad reads. You have to hit different venues. You have to hit the highlights. You've got to explain certain things. And honestly, it's just like, it's a very truncated window. And this is, if I was going to criticize myself, which I want to, I want to be better and critique myself. I told you guys this. The format is different. On this pod, we can do whatever we want. We have free reign. If we wanted to have a 2-hour pod, we could do it. Like, we could just go back and forth and we could talk forever. But on those truncated timelines, in my head, I have so many things that I want to say, and I feel like my knowledge of, like, I could see a certain play and I want to talk about it for 5 minutes. Well, you got 30 seconds, dude. Like, you got to just pick out, like, the most important part of the play or important part of the game and just nail it, because you just don't have the time. I mean, it's like a halftime show. You can make 2 points. Boom. 15 seconds. Other guy, 15 seconds. Host. Back to you. 20 seconds. Out. I mean, and so that's just the reality of the timing, And Gordo, I completely agree, because I love when we can go back and forth. I love when we can disagree. I love when we can be natural. But Kevin, Kevin's great. He's unbelievable, and so is Kalen. But Kevin is like, boom, like if we're on camera and we're talking, he's like,
that's what I mean. And I can feel that, and I think that's why Major League Journeymen is so much better than Apple TV. Just gotta say it. Just gotta say it.
Just gotta say it. It is. Television is so much more structured, and Egan, as the Danny Tanner in the room, is he's so good at following the script and hitting and moving the group along, because that's really challenging, especially when you have guys that do have a ton of knowledge and could talk about an awful lot of things. I think what you're saying, Gordo, I don't think it's necessarily specific to this show. I think it's just the way that television shows, sports shows have evolved. They're becoming 15-second highlight hits. Can you say everything that you want to say in 42 words or less, and then we're going to move to the next guy to say another thing? But there's not a ton of back and forth. There's not a ton of discourse. You don't get really into the weeds on any of it. I think that's a big piece that Apple could definitely lean into and do a little bit more of some conversational shows, or just, picking out one game and let's run through the whole game, or picking out one club and let's run through the whole club and what they did in the offseason for an hour and talk through it and get granular. They don't do that. They're not. You
guys make really good points, man. And I want to just say, I don't know if you got to see every single piece of content that we did. We did countdown. We did 360. We did wrap up, and then we had another countdown on Saturday. Like, we did a lot of stuff. Kevin Egan, especially when we were talking about the San Jose Earthquakes, he gave some serious props and shout outs to the Bash Brothers. So I don't know if you heard that, Gordo, but he was comparing Bruce's San Jose back in the day, Chicho and Joseph, to the Bash Brothers, where the Earthquakes were must-watch soccer. Like, listen, and I came in and I said, listen, Kev, there's some differences, right? Like, Chicho and Joseph are actually good players. Like,
I don't know, like, and 3 feet.
I was going to say the same thing.
I was going to give a shout out to Major League Soccer, whichever computer did their scheduling this year. I was pumped about the matchups in week one. So now we're backed, right? We just come off week one. I mean, from the NYC, the Snowbirds and Snow fans flying down to Miami for a weekend in February, nailed it, right? You put a good group up against Messi and you get the result, that I think probably television maybe wants to see, at least an engaging game. You got Philly traveling to Orlando, so you're bringing those fans down. You got Columbus and Chicago, the Triple G versus Nancy ball. You got, who else? Bruce versus Pablo. I mean, there were some real fun games. There was genuinely some good Vancouver, Portland. I mean, you had some great matchups.
San Diego, LA as well.
And it finishes with San Diego, LA, which we'll get to. But I wanted to chat a little bit. about the topic that I feel like everybody in Major League Soccer talks about, because rightfully so, he's earned the topic, the MLS MVP in Lionel Messi. I want to talk about two things. One, his performance and the fact that he's still doing it, right? I think that we can all agree it's incredibly impressive. What he did in the Champions Cup, the goal that he scored against Sporting in the negative degree temperatures, then comes back and he had 2 assists this weekend, right? 2 assists, one in the 99th or the 90 whatever, 101st, whatever minute it was. But I don't want to talk about how good Messi is, because we've already addressed that. Everybody knows how incredible he is. I want to talk about how the league is going to handle Messi now, being who Messi is seemingly evolving into. Messi is turning the page on whatever he was in the past. It is, very, my vantage point, very quiet, very understated, was an absolute killer on the field, but never the guy that got into it, always had other people protecting him. Messi seems like he is more than willing to address just about anything with players, with coaches, with referees. After the game, he goes after the referee and has, I think, obviously some choice words, gets shown a yellow card, goes back again, goes back at the referee. Then he has a word with Mehdi Bellucci, which I haven't chatted with Mehdi yet, but has a word with Mehdi Bellucci, NYC assistant coach, on his way off, puts his hands on Mehdi. There's just so many things that are wrong with this. And my concern is that the league is not going to do anything, which I'm sure maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you guys think differently. I'm a little worried about what that perception does for the rest of the league. What does that do for the rest of the players? What does that do for the league's intention to continue to bring eyeballs here and bring eyeballs on their product that they are looking to elevate, which they are absolutely elevating. But if you don't step in and allow the league to reprimand or I guess just take ownership of reprimanding its superstars, are we going to hit this place? So let's go back, because I know I said a lot there, and Gordo's not great with following along. I want to throw this to Gordo first, though. And Gordo, I just want you to touch on what your reaction was to seeing Messi act like that after the game.
I hate to see it. I hate to see it for all the reasons that you said. So there's always the comparison between Cristiano and Messi, right? And the reason, and not the whole reason, but a large part of my reason for loving Messi more than Cristiano is because he used to get kicked and just get up, and he used to not say anything, and he was humble, and he just played. He just played, and he let his playing do his talking for him, right? I don't know what it is. I'm going to draw this comparison, and you're going to say, oh, he's going to talk about Beckham again. Yes, I'm going to talk about Beckham, but who else can we compare Messi to on the grand stage in the MLS, right? So when I was playing with Bex, it was a little bit different because we were absolutely terrible when he came over, and so you started seeing a ton of frustration from Bex. Mm-hmm. Bex was getting into it with players. He was getting into it with referees. And I don't know what that feels like. Neither do you guys about the pressures. I don't know what it is that's bringing this out from Messi. We started seeing it last year. Maybe it was the year before. I think it was last year in the Leagues Cup when he was going after guys from Orlando, being very verbal. And it is continued. And this one was just kind of the apex of it, right? It's a really bad look for him. Do I think the MLS is going to do anything? No, they're not, because they can't, because Messi is that big. Should they do something? I mean, what can you do? Can you fine him? He's going to get a $250 yellow card fine.
But even if you do that, like that, I still think that you're at least following along and setting a precedent that this is not okay. I don't know if they will, though, even by that, because then you get into the semantics of it. Well, how could it doesn't matter what dollar amount they still fined me, and then there's an emotional side of it, which I think is pretty significant, especially at that level, right? Before you jump in, Dax, Gordo, is Messi turning himself into a villain?
Ooh.
Good question, Gargs.
That's a great question. I don't think so at this point, but if he continues to do these things on the field, he will. I don't think this one instance of him.
It's not this one instance. You and I both know it's not this, because I think we have all chatted a little bit about the evolution of Messi's personality, and I can tell you from my vantage point, I felt a lot of the same things that you are articulating right now, and also as a former player, an aggravation that I would be really excited to get on the field with Messi just to kick him because of the way that he has acted in previous games, where I could have never said that. I would have never said that about Messi.
Right. Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, what he did to the Club America fans was number one for me. And he was like, he can get into it with players and stuff like that, because everybody does that. We're just not on camera as much as him. I was screaming at players my whole entire career. Sure. Nobody ever saw it because I wasn't close to the ball or mattered that much. But we're all seeing it. What he did to the fans, I thought he's losing class points. That was not classy. It wasn't him. He didn't need to say that. Why would he piss off the entire Mexican fan base after he scores, and then he goes and does this? So yeah, Gargs. I mean, I could see that. I could see him turning himself into the villain if you wanted an answer.
Dax, do you think that the league has a responsibility to step in here just after this specific event?
I don't think so. I think that, yes, of course, you want to always set a precedent. And to be honest, listen, you never want to see anyone involved in MLS put their hands on anybody else, especially from an opposing team, especially when the cameras are on, especially in a moment of frustration. If the league finds him, fine, great. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be a drop in the bucket for him. Doesn't matter.
Right? It's not. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they will, but if they do, great. Set a precedent. Okay. You can't put your hands on another person on an opposing team. Fine him. For me, the thing that I talked about in the post game on the broadcast was there's a really fine line, and Bradley Wright Phillips and Kevin Egan both agreed and kind of made this point, was that they love seeing that passion out of Messi because it shows that he cares, and he does care. And so that's great. We've seen plenty of superstars come to this league, collect a paycheck, and not care. And that is true. That is true. And so I think that just adds to Messi's greatness, that he comes here and that he's still playing at the highest level, and that he cares about the results, and that he's pissed when they don't win. I love that. But there's a fine line, and this is my rebuttal to that. There's a fine line between passion and petulance, and he is walking that line for the last couple of months now with some of these little outbursts. And listen, I think something that is kind of getting lost in all this is that Messi, he could be, and I don't know this, it's just speculation, it's just my opinion, he could be coming to the reality of his own mortality. He can see the end is near. I could feel it in Atlanta. I knew the end was near, and you start to maybe act outside yourself a little bit, and you start to feel a little bit more pressure. Messi, his legacy is secure. Nobody is going to, I don't question his legacy. Maybe some people do. His legacy for me is the greatest of all time, is secure. He's won everything there is to win. He's won in MLS, sure. But guess what? If you ask him in Inter Miami if he would have a successful tenure in MLS if he didn't win an MLS Cup, he would say no.
Okay, so are
and
you
rightfully so, and rightfully so, and I think that he is starting to see that MLS, yes, they crushed it last year, but he's a year older. Luis Suarez is a year older. Busquets, Jordi Alba, they're a year older. Their window for winning MLS Cup is closing. It is. That's a fact. Messi's window for winning this is closing. And so I think that there's frustration creeping in with maybe the team, maybe the league, maybe the fact that he doesn't step on the field. And even though he plays great and he's getting goals and assists, and they still aren't winning games, which we saw that last year with Atlanta United. We're seeing it with NYCFC, a team that they should have blown away. But then, right, like maybe his frustration with teammates getting sent off and Aviles, like I just think it's all encompassing, and that there is an element of him having this realization of his own mortality is getting closer and closer, and his career is getting shorter and shorter, and this frustration bubbles over, and he's going at refs, he's going at opposing players, he's going at opposing teams. Listen, I think that the frustration is pretty high.
You said a few things there, Dax. You said that Messi is potentially feeling pressure in MLS and also feeling frustration. Do you think that there's one or the other? Like, if you're saying that he's feeling pressure in MLS, that's a strong statement, which I think that
But I think it's pressure that he puts on himself. I think he holds himself to the highest possible standard. I think every time Messi steps on the field with that Inter Miami team and they don't win, I think it infuriates him.
Yeah, but that's different from pressure.
Yeah.
I mean, it is, but at the end of the day, I think that there is a little bit of pressure. I think there's a little bit of pressure on him. Do you guys not think that there's any pressure on Messi?
I don't know. The things that you're saying right now, Dax, I don't know if they add up to pressure. I don't disagree with, I think, the majority of the assessment. But when you're saying that, Egan and BWP are thankful that Messi actually cares and is showing that he cares, that's a completely different end of the spectrum, that Messi has pressure on him to win. He's showing that the legacy is secured. He's beyond all these things. His resume are just stat fillers at this point. Yep. But then there's also pressure to win. I don't know. I don't know if Messi feels pressure. You don't think
he feels pressure to win an MLS Cup?
I don't. I think he has a desire to win an MLS Cup. I think he genuinely wants to succeed. I would agree with that.
Of course he does.
I don't think that Messi feels pressure.
I think that he feels a little pressure to win MLS Cup, and I think that he should. I think that he is one of the greatest athletes of all time.
Right.
Like, Tom Brady secured his legacy in New England, but do you not think he felt pressure to win a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay? Of course he did. What are we talking about here?
Right. I'm not talking about Tom Brady. We're talking about we're comparing greatest players of all time. Like, do you not think that they get to the level that they get to because of the pressure they put on themselves? I think that they certainly put a responsibility on themselves, but I don't think.
So now it's just semantics. You're just changing pressure and responsibility.
No, those are two very different words, Dax. The responsibility and pressure are two very different words, and I think that what I'm saying is I don't think.
So if I say Lionel Messi he puts a responsibility on himself to win MLS Cup, that's different than him putting pressure on himself to win MLS Cup. That's what you're saying.
It's only different because
I just fundamentally disagree with that. But that's fine.
I think it's only
people can disagree all they want.
I think it's only different because we're talking about why he's acting the way he's acting. And I don't think that pressure is making him act, because he's had pressures his whole entire career. Is there some pressure? It is semantics, right? There's always going to be a little bit. He's going to put pressure on himself. But we're talking about why is he acting in a way to where is unnatural for him. I don't think it's the pressure. I think it's got to be these are frustrations. I don't know why he's so frustrated in the first game of the 2025 season. That's the thing. I like the way that he cares. I would say the same about Beckham. Beckham actually cared, and that we sucked and all that kind of stuff, and he was collecting a big check. I don't think the pressure is the way he's acting right now, which is in a bad light for him. I think it's frustrations.
You guys played with one of the greatest players ever. Did David Beckham feel pressure to win an MLS Cup?
Oh yeah. He's different, but he's different. Yeah, he definitely did. No, but he's different than Messi. Beckham got shunned by Real Madrid in the not the end of his career. He was only like 33. You know, he had a lot of time left, but he comes from a major disappointing stint. I guess Messi did too at PSG. But I think
Messi got shunned from Barcelona. David Beckham from Real Madrid, and guess what? David Beckham was so professional. If you watched his Netflix doc, the players advocated to the coach to bring him back into the team, and they ended up winning La Liga.
Yes,
it's not the same. And Barcelona tried to bring Messi back; they couldn't afford him. So I don't know if they necessarily shunned him. I hear what you're saying, Dax. I just don't think that Messi feels the same things that Tom Brady did in Tampa. Like, moving from New England to Tampa is not like moving from PSG to MLS or winning the World Cup.
I think my overall point is that great players they only get to the top of the mountain and to the top of the peak because they put the most pressure on themselves. I believe that at my core. I don't think Messi has anything to prove. He doesn't. But I think he puts pressure on himself to win. I don't think it's that outlandish of a statement. We're talking about why he's, these things are bubbling up to the surface and he's acting the way he's acting. I think it's a combination of things, and I think pressure is a small part of it. I don't think that's that crazy of a statement. I think frustration, yes, it's high with refs, with teammates, with whatever you want to call it. I definitely think there's a little bit of pressure.
Gordo, do you think that Mascherano is feeling any pressure?
Yes, he's going to feel some pressure. This is his first. Are you impressed that I know who that is? This is his first professional gig, by the way. I mean, He's never had and now he's coaching Messi, or Messi's coaching under him and playing for him. And there's got to be a ton of pressure. And I'm really nervous for him because I think in this whole grand scheme of things, I'm not sure that I know nothing about him and nobody does. He's coached a couple of youth squads, but I'm not sure, because we all respect Tata and his tactics and what he was trying to do with Miami. I think he had a big say in it, even though Messi arguably was, an advocate for him getting out and for signing Mascherano. So this guy's got to get it right. If they start to lose some games, there's going to be huge pressures. There's going to be huge questions on Mascherano. Does he have the tactical awareness as a coach? We all know he was a great player, but can he get Messi and the crew to do what he sees is best for that team?
So I think, you're hitting on something that we've talked about. I think Mascherano's higher, and the state of the league just in general has moved the pressure of a head coach into a different stratosphere, because I think that you're now at a point, doesn't matter which club you're in, you have to perform. You have to get results. And if not, they're going to find somebody else. They're spending enough money where it is taking a bigger step on that side of things. So with that line of thinking, in a way too early assessment, does anybody or anybody's performance concern you, or the vice versa? Actually, Dax, I'd ask you to think about, does anybody's performance concern you? Gordo, does anybody stand out to you as having made a significant statement? I'll give you some potentials. Bradley Carnell in Philly goes down to Orlando, puts 4 on the board. Delia comes into Atlanta, takes all those pieces and puts 3 on the board and beats Montreal. Maybe Bruce versus Pablo puts a 4 spot up over him. Anybody where you were like, oh, wow, okay, that's a good first step forward?
Well, I thought that with the Philly coach. When I saw that result, that was the first one. The Bruce one was like, okay, like all of those. All of those are good answers. There's not one, but the Philly coach going in there, because it was slightly controversial. Did Jim Curtin deserve the door? Mm-hmm. And we had some back and forths about that. He had a ton of success over some time, and they were just ready. What did they bomb? And he was seen as ready to go. I didn't think so. I know you didn't. And so he comes in there, and now he's proven himself right, and a hire like that. In Atlanta, they needed a coach, right? They weren't successful last year. They had money. So that one has yet to be seen. But the Philly one, for me, he just came and he silenced some what could be critics if he lost the first game.
So I like to think, I've always felt this way, the first week, opening day, maybe first 2 weeks are really more of just a survive and advance type mentality, where you just got to get through those games. And if you can pick up 4 points, you are in a really good place. Anything less than that, it's kind of questionable. But if you don't pick up at least 3 points somewhere in the margin, you're starting to ask questions. Dax, who are you asking questions of already?
Guys, there were a couple of great performances, a couple of great games. There were also a couple of stinkers. I mean, let's be honest. There's a few games that I'm looking at and a few teams that I'm looking at. Sporting Kansas City. We've talked about them before, and we've talked about Peter Vermees before, and I love Peter Vermees. I think he's one of the best coaches in MLS history. We're going on a long time now of Sporting Kansas City a little bit dwindling into irrelevancy. And they made a big move for Jovic. Who have they put around him? Jovic is a proven goal scorer. If you put the pieces around him, they signed Manu Garcia from a club in Greece. And is that enough? I just don't think it is. I just don't think it is, you guys. And so
not in today's day and age, it's not.
I have big questions about Sporting Kansas City. I just don't know what the vision is anymore. I really don't. And I think that they are going to struggle. And then let's go to Sunday Night Soccer, baby. Your LA Galaxy. Ooh.
Are you worried about Greg?
I'm not worried about Greg Vanney. No,
oh, okay.
But LA did not look good, and they played very bad. They looked like the expansion team. They looked like they were still celebrating in the locker room from last year. And I want a little bit of context here. They got some big pieces missing. I get that. Okay, they got some big pieces missing. We knew Ricky Puig was going to be out. Paintsel is a massive loss. The LA Galaxy were toothless. Marco Reus and Christian Ramirez. There's no connection there.
Did Christian Ramirez touch the ball?
Good point, Gordo.
He was out there.
My thing is this with Marco Reus. You were one of the best players in Europe for years. You're still at a decent age. And you were one of the best players in Dortmund. You played multiple Champions Leagues. Like, you played for the German national team, played in World Cups. He doesn't look he just doesn't look motivated to me. He doesn't look motivated. He doesn't look that fit. He just, if we're talking about how passionate Messi is and how much he cares, I gotta say, guys, I think I have Royce on the opposite end of that spectrum. And with Ricky Puig out, Royce has to take more responsibility. So I got big questions about him. And then the Portland Timbers. Listen, early red card, probably difficult to take a lot out of the game, but still, Vancouver absolutely dominated them. I had Portland kind of at the bottom of the West this year, and it was a little bit of a risk because Portland's been pretty decent. But I don't know, guys. I just don't know if I see it with Portland, and it's a really bad start to their season. I think Phil Neville will be feeling a little bit of pressure, especially with how their season ended last year. That's what I got my eye on with those teams and the start to the season that they've had.
Gordo, walk the Galaxy fans or the rest of the league back off the ledge and talk about what the first couple weeks are after receiving your Major League Soccer championship.
Are you still in the nightclub?
But also be realistic with the way that this season may unfold just by what we're witnessing right now, because I don't think that Dax's concerns are unfounded.
And I'm sorry, let me just say one thing. San Diego were really good. Yeah. First half was a snooze fest, but San Diego, Mikey Veras came out and said, we are going to play. We're going to play under pressure. They have an identity. They did that. They did that. They were toothless in the first half, and the Galaxy gifted them a goal. If the Galaxy don't gift them that goal, are we headed towards a 0-0? Probably. I think we are. But San Diego was better in the second half. They created good chances. When the game gets open, those wingers are going to be really good. I want to give props to San Diego because that's not easy to do as an expansion team.
Again, the scheduling. One sec, Gordo. The scheduling. That's a huge plus for MLS in sending San Diego into LA for their opening game, because now they get to come back and they should be 2-0 after their first 2 weeks, because now they get to open Snapdragon Stadium as an expansion franchise with all that hoopla. Hit on the Galaxy, Gordo, because Dax said all the right things, but I'm not sure that I was surprised by this performance. I had some real concerns going into it. They talked about it the whole broadcast, how there's only 5 starters from the team that won the championship. They lost some big pieces. Yeah. Marco Delgado was not talked about. He was the least one that was talked about, and I thought he plays his engine, everything that and looked great for LAFC too. By the way,
he's a good piece that gets overlooked because there's all these stars around him, but he is the engine that makes it run. That's a big loss. Paintsill's out, and even last year, when the team was running and they didn't have Ricky, we were really concerned. And now they don't have Ricky, they don't have Paintsill, they don't have Jovic. It's on and on and on. And the only thing that they still do have is their back line, which is the only concern that we really had about them last year.
Which was not their strength.
it doesn't mean, that it's their strength. So I got some major concerns, man. This is why dynasties are so hard to come by, because you're dealing with salary caps, and you got to get rid of Jovic because he wants, he wins a championship.
Dude, we went back and forth on Jovic a lot. He's the type of personality that you have to have in that mix, though. You have to have him in that mix alongside of Peck and Paintsill, because those are not that guy.
Yeah. Peck is.
Yeah, and it was
Peck
a frustrating night.
He's a player, but not this. I don't know. I think Jovic has that, almost.
He's not the goal scorer, but Peck is a wonderful player. He is.
No.
But you can see
Peck is a better player than Jovic, but he doesn't have that same type of just unearned arrogant swagger that
Jovic is a sniper, man. He is a great finisher, and I'm telling you guys right now, Christian Ramirez is a good player, but he's not Jovic, and there were signs there. And listen, Will Kuntz said it best. You guys saw Will Kuntz's his quotes. You get punished for success in this league. Everyone wants a raise. Everyone wants a new contract. What he said about Maya Yoshida, he said it disgusted him that he had to offer Maya Yoshida a pay cut after winning a championship. And Maya Yoshida's 36, 37 years old, and he played almost every minute for the Galaxy last year. I mean, it sucks, right? And so, look, these are the rules. Everyone's got to play by them. But listen, Greg Vanney, for me, is one of the best coaches in the league. We're going to see him tested because he's going to have to rely on young players. He's going to have to figure out how to get the best out of Marco Reus. I think the Galaxy are going to be fine. Like you said, Dan, it's early in the season, and I would almost argue get even more than 2 games. 4 or 5 games is probably a better sample size.
They're going to need 15 games because that's how long Peck's going to be, or Puja's going to be out. But you can see the effect that not having those other pieces creates for even Peck. There's one guy they had to stop yesterday. It was Peck, and it was very obvious. He had no room.
The Galaxy weren't dangerous.
Every single time he got the ball down the right-hand side, there was the 6 was coming to cover. He had 2 guys. They knew he was going to try to cut in. It's easy to guard one guy in a soccer match if that's your only concern. And to your point, you made all the right points. Fagundes and Royce are not going to cause, obviously, they're not going to cause anybody trouble, the way that they're structuring their team.
How quick until the Galaxy make moves to address this, Gordo? Is this a wait and see till the summer transfer? I'd be concerned that it gets that late.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to wait, but they're in a bad spot because they have 2 guys that they know they have pieces, but they got 2 guys that are on the sideline that are massive, massive pieces. And they become even more important when you start losing guys like Jovic and Delgado and even Brugman or whatever. Your depth isn't there. It isn't what it used to be.
So we are really walking through the door here on soccer being in and I guess in a consistent way, just repetitive games back to back. We already had the Champions Cup games last week, which we saw. We got the second round. Dax, are you looking to anybody or any game in particular? Does anyone stand out to you that you want to watch?
Yeah, I'm going to watch Inter Miami. They're must-see TV. I'm going to watch them because I want to know how Javier Mascherano is going to rotate this team and how he's going to keep these old guys fresh. Messi already has 2 games under his belt. He's been fantastic. He's always taken great care of himself. How do you handle Luis Suarez? How do you handle Busquets? They have a super deep roster. They're young players. This guy Segovia, his finish against NYCFC with the pass from Messi was sick.
His run, pretty impressive.
His run was great. That whole thing was fantastic. But how does he rotate? Sporting Kansas City is not a good team. I think that you should be able in Miami to beat Sporting Kansas City with a slightly rotated team. Are you going to just keep running the big timers out? Does that mean you fall behind a little bit in the league to focus on CONCACAF Champions Cup? I just think everything surrounding Miami, you have to watch them. That you just have to.
Mascherano sitting to your left right now, Dax. Gordo, you're Javier. Are you playing your squad, your top squad, or are you rotating?
Rotating.
You are?
Yeah, I'm rotating. These competitions, I know it's a serious competition and you got to get points. However, these competitions are made to get young guys minutes. So You know,
Who
there's
does
going
Miami
to
have
be.
on the weekend?
They have.
It doesn't matter.
It does
Doesn't
matter.
matter.
They're in Houston.
Tough game.
Sunday night soccer.
There's no easy games anymore, especially with the travel of the
Sunday night
MLS.
soccer, so you get an extra day of rest. I don't think I'm rotating. I think I'm running the Bulls.
Yeah. Well, you're gonna if you keep advancing, you're gonna have to find some time to rotate.
I know that's true. Okay, so
Do it now. Do it now.
Is it the first game or the second game? Would you prefer to rotate your roster?
The second game, if it's at home and you already got the result in the first game. I think I agree with Gordo.
I'd be concerned, man. They don't look as
okay. But if the first half doesn't go the way you want it to go, then you bring the horses on in the second half and say go win the game. That's how I look at it. Hey, before we go, can I just make one point really quickly, Dan? Because you weren't going to ask about it, but this is nothing to do with CONCACAF Champions Cup. I want to say that I'm so happy that MLS teams spent massive money for big-time players in the offseason, and two of those players, Kevin Denke from FC Cincinnati and Emmanuel Latte-Lot from Atlanta United, look so good. They are going to add so much quality to both of these teams that
delivered on opening.
And they delivered, and that was my point. They delivered, and
Evander.
Evander, he is going to deliver. I have him as my MVP, but these two guys look amazing. Denke and Latte Lot are going to be must-see TV. Both of them look really, really strong. And I love when ownership shows the ambition and the willingness to spend big money and they get repaid for that. That should be every ownership group in MLS, and I love it.
That's a good note. Let's close on that. We at Major League Journeymen are sending our thoughts to Tony Meola, recovering. Obviously an icon of the sport, still invested deeply in covering the sport, and we hope for the best. So we'll see you guys all out there. Journeymen, be good.